Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Aurora RC X-Man. It is a 223mm 5-inch bind and fly or plug and fly, and at the making of this video it costs around about £148 for the FR Sky version, so that's with an XM Plus. I think it's about £144 for the Fly Sky version, and there is a cheaper version that is a plug and fly as well. And yeah, so about I think $190. That's just an estimate in US dollars. So yeah, it's about in the middle, and I would say it's competing with the likes of the Hawk 5 at that price, which of course is one of the top line models there. So yeah, it's got a lot to live up to. And from what I can see, it's basically the Fury B Dart Max components with a different frame. So we have got the DYS 2205 2550 kV motors. Actually a very good motor, and they take up to a 6S, and as far as I can tell these components will also take up to a 6S. It'll be very fast on 6S and unnecessarily noisy, and yeah, but I would fly this on 4S myself. And then we've got this stack here, so they are a 4-in-1 35 amp BL Halley S, so not 32-bit. The flight controller, it's an F3 I believe, and you're given this manual here that tells you all of the schematics and everything there. So yeah, I'm sure it's an F3 flight controller. And it's got Betaflight on there with Betaflight on-screen display, and then it's got the buzzer on here. It's a square buzzer, and if you remember, there was all that fiasco with the Dart Max where the square buzzer had issues and the thing would flip out of control and stuff like that. So I'll be mainly checking if this one actually flies, but I believe they've sorted that issue now. And then we have got the VTX, which is a switching VTX up to 600 milliwatt. Apparently it does smart audio, but it wasn't set up to do smart audio, so I need to take a look at that there. But yeah, we've got a couple of buttons on there. It's 48 channel, and I'm hoping that I can get the smart audio going, because you know this thing is competing against models now such as the Hobbymate Comet, and this thing has got smart audio, and it's actually, I think, probably got a better camera. So look up that one if you're interested in that one, because we have got this full-size camera up the front here, and they list it as a CCD camera, but I have a feeling that it's just going to be a low-quality CMOS camera with the on-screen display button thing on the back. You get given a pagoda antenna. We've got a really long XT60 here, and I'm not seeing any capacitors or filtration. There's a couple on the ESC board, so I'll have to see what it's like in terms of noise. It weighs 300 grams or thereabouts. You're given these JamFam props. They are actually the Flash 5152, so quite a high pitch prop for these 2205 motors, so it'll be interesting to see how it performs. I've not actually seen, I don't think, any reviews of this thing flying. I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm about to find out. But usually, you know, these are pretty reliable. So you get given one of these silicon mats, but it's not thick enough, so I've doubled it up because these screws get in the way. You're given a terrible, just terrible battery strap. That's not going to work, so I'm going to have to get a different battery strap. But we've got lots of room going through there. You're given a spanner, and we've got some spare screws, and looks like we've also got this plug here. It's for if you want to use a different receiver, I think. There's an LED board at the back here which kind of faces down. It is connected to the DIN, so you can program them there, and everything actually on this stack is pretty much plug and play if you take it apart. So if you can get spare parts for this, then it'd be easy to replace them if you know, blow a flight controller. everything just plugs into it. There's no soldering whatsoever. The only bit of soldering that we've got is here on the ESC board. Well, the weather is currently in its symbiotic relationship with the trees to blow all of the leaves off. So conditions are less than perfect for doing reviews for, well, anything that flies. Luckily, Copters can cut through it. So, let's see what the punch is like on this one. Pretty brutal. Those LEDs as well. You know what? Because they face downwards, when you do a punch, you can actually see that LEDs all the way up. I quite like that. Usually, the LEDs disappear. Or the wind is blowing it back, so yeah, I'm going to come out of angle mode. But yeah, it turns out that the smart audio does work with this VTX. It just wasn't turned on. So if you have bought this thing on the UR1, you have to turn on, it's actually tramp, and it seems to work. And I've had a quick look through the camera. It does look like it's a 16:9 CMOS camera. Yeah, some people like that though. There's a lot of people out there with the 16:9 cheaper goggles. But yeah, I find that the light handling usually isn't as good on these cheaper ones, but it does suit some people. There's just, you know, there's a lot of competition at this price. I think the King Kong 5 GT that I reviewed, that was superb, but doesn't do 6S. This one does 6S. Now, at the moment, I'm just flying this around to make sure that it's not gonna do any crazy flip outs and desyncs. It does look like they have fixed that issue with that flight controller that came with the Dartmax. As I say, this all seems to be the same gear inside. I did a full setup in Betaflight, so yeah, you're gonna have to do that, but it wasn't too bad. Feels quick, this one. This is a 1550 GMB battery, and I run it up. We don't have any mid yaw throttle oscillations, despite the screw going through the arm end into the stack, and despite there being no soft mounting. And you know, I'm not seeing any vibrations on the line of sight either. So, you know, I think we've got a good flyer here. So the next thing to do is to see how it flies FPV. Alrighty, let's take a look at some DVR footage, and just as I suspected, like the Dartmax, the camera is not a CCD camera, it is a 16:9 CMOS camera, but you know what, it's not actually too bad. So let's take a look at what speed this thing can do. It's very windy, and this is straight into wind, and it's still managed 80 mph. I think it can go a bit faster than that, so it's not really a fair test. I would say about 88 mph on the 1500 4S, and I did clock the Dartmax on a 6S at 118 mph, so you can see that I'm getting inconsistent values. I think the wind was gusting like up to 20 mph today. We really have got some crazy gales going on at the moment, but yeah, actually pretty impressed with that speed, and it was fairly consistent. There's not too much noise coming through to the VTX either. It's a fairly clean feed, so I was impressed with that as well. So yeah, I mean, you know, the only bad things to say about this package is that I think it's a little bit too expensive. I think if it was just over £100, like £110, then it would be an absolute steal. But it's coming into sort of the price bracket of some of the more premium models, like I say, the King Kong stuff that's out there, and some of the Diatone stuff, and some of the Diatone micro stuff, and the micro stuff in general. So I would say watch the price on this one, because actually it's pretty decent. And the one thing that it does do different than a lot of the other models out there is that it will support 6S. I've used this setup on the Dark Max with 6S and it is absolutely bonkers. You know, it's not really needed. 4S is absolutely fine, but if you really do want to, you know, go 6S for speed in this instance, then yeah, you can do it with this setup there. And you can see actually downwind I managed to get around 70 mile per hour as well, although I ran out of space. So yeah, I think this one is going a little bit quicker. It does have a current meter, this board, however it needs calibrating. It's not that accurate. This is a like 1500 milliamp battery or there around, and I think it was showing just 1000 milliamps when I landed, and I think I got like a 5-minute flight time with it. You can see that I was just getting a little bit of jello when I went up on the throttle. Again, you know, that is sort of showing that this is a CMOS camera. They are susceptible to rolling shutter and jello, so you know, that's why I prefer a CCD camera really. But you know, quite a smooth flyer. And I adjusted the PID just slightly. I think I just came down on the D value. I left everything else the same. I put the D value at 27 for both pitch and roll, because I think it was just stock values, which I think is around about 35, and that's just a little bit too high. But with this big heavy battery, so I'm using these 1500 milliamp batteries now, and yeah, the stock tune actually works pretty well with those. So yeah, just came down a bit on the D, and you can see the smart audio is working as well. This is just 25 milliwatts and getting great reception. Of course, I'm using the True Diversity system there, so that is making a difference. But yeah, you know, other than the things I've mentioned, you know, I think you'll get a good experience with this one. It's just, you know, look out for all of the other competitors, from King Kong, from Emax, you know, from the Hobby Mate model. You know, there's just so much out there. But yeah, you know, if you bought this, I think you get a good experience out of it. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.